Covering news where you live. 5 News starts with breaking news.
Even if Morgan doesn't get to come home the way we wanted her to, she still has the right to come home. And we should be able to find her and answer those questions.
That was the last time that we talked to Colleen Nick, the mother of Morgan Nick, who went missing after being abducted from an Alma ballpark nearly 30 years ago. In just minutes, we may get more questions answered after we get to hear from Alma Police.
Yesterday, the Alma Police Department announced that they will provide a, quote, significant update in the case.
Morgan Nick's disappearance has become one of Arkansas's most infamous unsolved mysteries.
In 1995, Morgan and her family went to a Little League baseball game in Alma to cheer on a friend.
Toward the end of the night, Morgan was invited to go catch fireflies with some friends. After playing for a while, her friends decided to leave, leaving Morgan by herself. That was the last time anyone saw her. For years, everyone from the FBI to local police departments have been trying to solve the case.
We wanted to make sure that if we did uncover something that was related to that case, that we had the people that were dealing particularly with that case there on scene.
That was former LaFleur County Sheriff Rob Seal back in 2017. The FBI brought in cadaver dogs to investigate an underground well on a property in Spiro. It is the same location police searched in 2010 in connection to Morgan's abduction. Both times, investigators found nothing. In 2021, the FBI believes that they were closer than ever as they linked local World War II veteran and Crawford County native Billy Jack Lincks to Morgan's abduction.
Lincks, who lived in Van Buren since the late 1970s, was caught attempting to abduct an 11-year-old girl 8 miles away from the Wolford baseball field where Morgan was taken. Lincks' abduction attempt was just 2 months after Morgan's disappearance.
Lincks was found guilty of sexual solicitation of a child and sentenced to prison, where he later died in 2000. However, he was not named a suspect in Morgan's disappearance until after his death. Hundreds of leads have poured in over the years. The case was even featured in a documentary entitled Still Missing Morgan. The documentary turned docuseries has an unprecedented look inside the open case, revealing new details from law enforcement and the Nick family that had never been shared with the public. Arkansas native Devin Parks, the director of the documentary, who is also director for the Hulu series, followed Arkansas and federal officers for several months as they investigated this case.
Over 2,000 children are reported missing every single day in the United States. So it's a problem of epic proportions.
After the abduction, Colleen Nick, Morgan's mom, founded the Morgan Nick Foundation. After Morgan's kidnapping, it became apparent there was a need for an organization that could provide immediate assistance to the families of missing children. The foundation provides a support network to Arkansas parents and families of missing children and adults.
We do have live team coverage here on 5 Plus as we get ready for the police department's press conference.
Darren, Bob, and Joe Ellison are live at the Alma Police Department right now. And Darren and Joe, this has been such a high-profile case for so long.
Yeah, you guys mentioned that in that report, that good reporting, that this case has been going on now for 29 years. You mentioned the name Billy Jack Lincks. The anticipation here in this news conference, which will start in about 10 minutes or so, and of course we'll have it live right here on 5 Plus and on Channel 5 Live as well, is that they will officially announce that Billy Jack Lincks is a suspect. That's just what we're hearing ahead of time. They have not said exactly what is going to be revealed in this news conference. That's just the speculation that we've heard.
Yeah, but definitely calling this a significant development. Right. I've never heard them use those words before in this case, so certainly, want to see what's going to happen. But just to set the scene a little bit here, we're at the Alma Courthouse. Right inside this room here, this courtroom is where all of the media is set up, where they're going to hold this press conference, and that is already a full room. Yeah,
there's a lot of folks who have come in from not only our area, but statewide and around the region to be a part of this news conference because of the magnitude of this case. It's gone on now for 29 years this past June, with a lot of updates. We've covered these in the past, and they have released suspects, evidence, but in the situation like this is the first time in 29 years that we have heard of a significant update in this case. And so that's what they're going to talk about today. Now, it's ironically, it is the same room that 29 years ago, when we were covering this story here on Channel 5, that we were actually in this room for like 2 or 3 weeks straight every day as state police gave updates on this case. And after 3 weeks or so, that's when the investigation really took off. We're here 29 years later in this same room to have some kind of major announcement about where this case has now led law enforcement, or what evidence has led this, where the evidence has led law enforcement to this point. And the room's full. There's state police here. There's law enforcement representatives from around this area. And if you remember from 29 years ago, state police was a big part of this investigation. Dale Best, he has since passed away. He was a captain with the police department, state police. He pretty much led the investigation, and was a big part of updating us throughout the first 2 or 3 weeks.
And they held press conferences for, you said, 3 weeks in a row, every day.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And a lot of those people who were involved in the case back then, a lot of those have passed on, right? So obviously they're not here today, but there are some, and one of the most important people throughout this whole thing is Colleen Nick.
And we
She's here.
Got a glimpse of her just a minute ago, and you can't even imagine what is going through her mind right now. With this update. She knows what they're about to say because they have fully informed her on what they're about to announce to us here in just a few minutes, in about 6 or 7 minutes or so. But the way she has taken this situation and expanded it to a, dare say, worldwide effort. The Morgan Nick Foundation was formed not long after this case became a big deal nationwide, and how many kids has that foundation been able to help find? And so obviously the end result of this is going to be finding Morgan. Where is she? If they're naming a suspect today, the hope is that eventually there will be some evidence gathered that will lead them to where she is. And that's the closure of this, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And she is a person that, the hope, she uses that
oh my
word
gosh,
a lot,
all
right?
the time, yeah.
That means so much to her, and if anyone has it, it's her.
Yeah.
She's held on to that all these years, hasn't lost it ever. And just to describe some of the people that are in the room today, of course you have all the media outlet, but you said Arkansas State Police, Alma Police, but there was even some firefighters in there, and even some deputies with Washington County here.
There's several different law enforcement agencies that are represented, and there's still folks who are coming in to be a part of this, or at least listen to the news conference itself. Her family is here. There will be family members here from Colleen's side of the family and her husband's side of the family. So there's quite a few. They're back in a room back here where they're being held now until the news conference starts. I don't know if, I'm anticipating that she will have something to say after Alma Police Chief Jeff Pointer, and I'm not sure who else will be a part of the news conference itself, but that she will want to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people, if she wants to speak, would love to hear from her, just to kind of get an idea of what she's thinking, how she's feeling today, of course. But a lot of people ready for this announcement today. Been waiting a long time, and over the years, every year you come back to this story and you try to keep it out there in front to tell it over and over. So if anyone knows anything, they come forward. And this story means so much, not only the law enforcement inside that room, but of course us and this entire community.
The documentary that we were a part of that's on Hulu right now, part of that was interviews with the law enforcement reps that were initially a part of this investigation. Alma Police Chief, Crawford County Sheriff, State Police, we mentioned Dale Best. They have since either have passed away or have since retired. And just watching that documentary, that it just eats at them that it couldn't be solved while they were here. That's not anything against them. It's just them hoping and wishing that something would have happened to get this case solved.
Absolutely.
And so, are we just about ready to start?
Yep, I think
we got to wait for live on 5
press
News.
conference
Okay.
right
Well,
now.
actually, we're about to go live on Channel 5, so we got to pause.
Okay.
Is there anybody home?
It's her sister and brother.
Oh, Taryn. Yeah.
Covering news where you live. 5 News starts with breaking news.
Right now, we are waiting for that press conference to start where we're going to get what police are calling a significant update in the Morgan Nick case. If you remember, that was the girl who almost 30 years ago now was taken from a ballpark in Alma.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we got an update last night from Alma police saying that today they were going to be making that significant announcement. And that's where we can find 5 News anchors Darren Bob and Joe Ellison. They are outside of that courtroom. We're here in just minutes. We will figure out those latest developments. Guys, this is a case that a lot of people here in our community have been following for a long time. And so just what's the atmosphere like out there, and what are y'all hoping the outcome will be today from this press conference?
Well, the anticipation, thanks you guys, the anticipation is, or the speculation is that they were going to formally announce a suspect in this case. We reported last night and this morning that Billy Jack Lincks was being investigated as a suspect, but was never identified as a suspect. The anticipation or the speculation is now that he will be named a suspect. And you guys, we've been reporting that he was found guilty of trying to kidnap a child. He was sentenced to prison. He died in prison in 2000. But the case was never officially tied to this case. Was never officially tied to him. That is the speculation. There's a room full of reporters, law enforcement representatives from all over this area, including, of course, Alma Police, State Police, Washington County deputies are here. There's a couple of state leaders that are here as well, and of course the family is here to get this update. And after 29 years, this is the first time we've heard an announcement of significance in this case.
Absolutely. Saying the word significant development, and you know that they want to tell people about that and what that is, you know that it's going to be something very important to this case, which I feel like all of these years, almost 30 years now,
yes.
We've had little pieces here and there, but nothing that they've ever called significant. So, you know, a lot of people inside this room are ready to know what that is. And like Darren said, we even have deputies from Washington County who have showed up here. What they have to do with that, I don't know, but they are inside along with all the other law enforcement just waiting for that to happen, which is going to come in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we're about a minute away from going back inside the courtroom there, and ironically it was 29 years ago in June that this is where all the news conferences started. And if I remember right, it was 3 weeks worth of news conferences every day from state police just trying to keep this story in the forefront. For 3 weeks straight. That really started this investigation. That's what has kept this going. But really, her mom, Colleen Nick, has really kept this not on the forefront, not only locally, but nationally, and dare I say worldwide, with the Morgan Nick Foundation. And how many children has that foundation helped find to bring back to their parents? So it's I can't imagine what the family is going through. They're going to be here. I saw her a minute ago. How do you even know what she's thinking right now about this, about what's about to be announced? And so we'll know here in about 45 seconds, they're telling us. I think they're starting to gather inside the room. We'll go in there in just a second. But
Colleen Nick, she's someone who, like we talked about earlier, who has never given up hope. That's been a word that she's used since the very beginning. Always hope to bring Morgan home. And she says until she's told different, that's what she'll have, is that hope.
Yeah, the obvious end result to this is knowing where she is. If they name a suspect today, that's the biggest development that we've had in this case in 29 years. Obviously, the end result is finding her and bringing her back home and bringing this case closed and bring closure for the family. They've been dealing with this for 29 years now, and to not know, how do you even deal with that? Right. And like you said, Colleen has kept that hope alive for 29 years, and this could be one of the biggest announcements we've had so far.
Absolutely, and then you have, an entire community. This entire community is behind Colleen, is behind these law enforcement officers. It means so much to them. Morgan, in this case, is special to them as well.
Yeah, you've had investigators that have passed away that didn't get to be obviously be a part of this day today. You've had law enforcement officers, police chiefs, sheriffs who who have retired. I would assume they might be in here today, but the documentary that's on Hulu now that we were a part of, Still Missing Morgan, you could just tell it just ate at them because they couldn't solve this case. They couldn't locate a suspect or officially name a suspect or even find Morgan. Today, if today is the day that they name a suspect, that's one step closer to bringing this case to a close. Yeah. Obviously, the end result is finding where Morgan is, and hopefully if they name a suspect, that there is evidence out there that will lead them to where she is. And that's obviously the end result.
And talking about those investigators that have retired, they have a room dedicated to working on the Morgan Nick case.
Right,
so
right.
It's not that they haven't tried all these years, they've worked hard.
Okay, let's go back inside. They're starting the news conference.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jeff Pointer, and I'm the chief of the Alma Police Department. We've called you here today to report a significant development in the investigation of the 1995 kidnapping of Morgan Nick. You'll recall that Morgan was kidnapped from a parking lot of the Alma Little League ball field, just about a block away from here, around 10:45 p.m. on June the 9th, 1995. A suspect description was provided, as was a description of a red truck with a white camper shell that was allegedly involved. Since then, we, along with allied local, state, and federal law enforcement officials, have spent thousands of hours working more than 10,000 leads in this case. One of the early persons of interest in this case was Billy Jack Lincks. Lincks was arrested for sexual solicitation of a child on August 29th, 1995 in Van Buren, Arkansas. On that occasion, Lincks tried to lure an 11-year-old girl into his red pickup truck. This was roughly 12 weeks after Morgan's disappearance. Police questioned Lincks on August 31st, 1995. He denied any knowledge of Morgan's abduction and at that time appeared to be truthful. Investigators at that time moved on. In July 2019, then Alma Police Department Lieutenant Brett Hartley decided to go back to the beginning of this case, to review the case from the beginning. During that process, Lieutenant Hartley spoke with an individual who provided information inspiring him to revisit the possibility that Billy Jack Lincks might be Morgan's abductor. Investigators worked to locate the truck Lincks owned in 1995, and we were able to contact the current owner of that truck. We determined that the owner had no knowledge of Lincks. He gave permission for us to examine the truck for evidence at that time. To that end, investigators arranged for the FBI Evidence Response Team to examine the truck, and they did so on July the 28th, 2020. Among the collection methods the team used was that of vacuuming various locations within the vehicle. In doing so, they produced several vacuum canisters containing various forms of matter, including hair, from the vehicle. Upon completion of the collection process, the FBI retained custody of the evidence. In July 2023, Detective Sean Taylor with the Alma Police Department learned of advanced analysis processes that's available at Ortham Laboratory, which is based in Texas. Detective Taylor conferred with a representative of the lab and learned, among other things, they had been successful in developing DNA profiles from hair with or without roots. On September 11, 2023, Detective Taylor conferred with an FBI agent to discuss the possibility of sending this trace evidence to Ortham Labs. On September 27, 2023, Detective Taylor received a package containing this evidence from the FBI, which was originally from the red truck. On December 1st, 2023, Detective Taylor sent this evidence to Ortham Laboratory for testing. And it's at that time that I wish to express my sincere thanks to the Arkansas State Police for providing the funding that was necessary to perform this analysis. On September 27, 2024, Ortham Laboratory sent a report to Detective Taylor stating in essence that they determined that the hair contained in the evidence that was submitted for analysis was that of Colleen Nick, one of her siblings or one of her children. We spent the next few days doing follow-up interviews with members of the Nick family, which revealed that none of them knew Billy Jack Lincks and that none of them had been in a truck that was similar to this one. The bottom line in this is that the physical evidence collected from the truck that Lincks owned when Morgan was abducted strongly indicates that Morgan had been in this truck. Billy Jack Lincks died in the year 2000. I think the most important thing here is Morgan is still missing. But we've reached a point where we can concentrate on one suspect to determine the circumstances surrounding Morgan's abduction. How was she taken from the ball field? What happened next? Did Lincks have help in abducting Morgan or concealing his crime all these years? And where is Morgan now? I can tell you today that this investigation is not over. It is ongoing and active. In the wake of this development, we're working to expand our understanding of Lincks and his activities. This includes, for example, additional interviews and re-interviews of known associates, and locating any additional physical evidence. This is where we need your help. We ask that every member of the public who might have information that can help answer these questions contact us at 1-800-THE-LOST, which is the number for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's 1-800-843-5678. This time we will take a few questions.
Chief, what's the next step on this? And I guess what other information are you still investigating, or is there other evidence that you're still investigating at this point?
Well, like explained, we want to go back and see if there's any more evidence that can be located. Our next step is refocusing on Mr. Lincks, his activities, and any unknown associates of his at that time.
Have you checked his old house in disappearance?
There's been some investigations that have been done there, yes.
Is Billy Jack Lincks being declared as an actual suspect?
As of today, for the first time that I'm aware of in this case, I am calling Billy Jack Lincks a suspect in Morgan's abduction.
And as of right now, he's the only person, correct?
He is.
Talk about two things. Nearly 30 years later, that's incredible that you've been able to have this evidence analyzed. Talk about that for me.
Well, I'm not going to stand here and try to answer scientific questions because I don't understand them. The fact is, a laboratory that does this kind of testing has confirmed that this evidence was located in the truck. It took them a while to get some results, just because you just said it's been almost 30 years, and so the fact that the evidence was degraded, so that it did take some time to provide those results.
And then Lincks still has family in this area, in this region today. Have they been cooperative?
The family that we have talked to has been cooperative, yes.
How confident are you that this is going to lead to her whereabouts?
I can't answer that right now. We hope that that's the end result, to be able to bring Morgan home.
You mentioned looking at whether he acted alone. Are there any indications that he didn't act alone, or how are you looking into those angles?
Well, there's still, as I mentioned, there's still active and ongoing. We don't know if he acted alone or if he had someone with him. Those are some things that we want to go back and try to find out just by mainly interviews and re-examining some of the evidence.
Is there anything that's pointed to that possibility?
As of right now, we have no indication of that, but again, that's something that I can't answer for sure right now.
Are there any more? I'm trying to refresh my memory. Really up to speed. I believe it was reported that some people reported a possible red truck, possibly this person in the Kibler area at a river access location. Is that any more information with that? Am I correct when I said that? Not long after the disappearance, or matching his description of that truck there.
Yes, there was. If you guys remember, as I know most of you do, there was a lot of reports of this red truck at various locations around that time.
Do you believe that's founded, that report that you received about that truck at that location?
We believe that several of the locations has been confirmed.
Do you know how many hands this truck has been passed over, or has it just been a direct sale to the last person?
It has had a few owners in between.
And are those like recorded sales, or is that cash on the table type?
No, it's recorded sales.
Did you say you only found one piece of hair, or were there multiple?
It's my understanding there was multiple hairs found, but there was one of them that these results came from.
And has the hair been tested before and now retested?
I can't answer that for sure, but it's my understanding that this hair has never been tested.
As of now, has anyone come forward with additional information about Lincks that maybe said, you told me about this? Has anybody else, I know we put this out there, last year, a couple of years ago, asking for information about Lincks. Between now and then, has anybody come forward with more information specifically about that?
We have gotten some information on Lincks, but it's not the answer we need. all the information that we've received has been very helpful to this point, but we need more, and that's the purpose of this conference today.
What kind of information are you looking for? Someone knew him or was in
Yes.
that area?
You know, someone that knew him, maybe a witness that has never said anything, maybe someone that he told something to that has never told anyone.
Chief, prior to the arrest in Van Buren, did he have a criminal record in his past?
Yes, he did.
Was it extensive?
Not to my knowledge. I know he had a previous arrest here in Crawford County a few years prior.
And I know you've looked at him extensively. Can you just simply tell us about Lincks when he lived in this area, briefly about him? Who might have known? Tell me about him.
Well, Lincks was from Crawford County. He had retired from the Texas area and moved to Crawford County, and I'm not sure of those dates, but you know, like I said, he was retired. He was, you know, so he was around this area, had some family around this area. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, he lived here for some time. How long? I don't know. I'm just trying to find out more about who this person was. I don't know what his profession was. How long was he here? You know, just generally, who might have known him? Who did he hang out with? Tell us about him.
You know, it's my understanding, and again, I don't have those dates in front of me right now, but you know, he had lived in the Crawford County area for several years, and it's to my knowledge that he was retired.
What was his age at the time of death?
His age at that time would have been, I believe, 72 years old.
Now that he's passed, does this open a whole portfolio on him of looking into his past and other databases to see any, you know, leads to this, or just looking into his past, helping this investigation?
Yes, we're looking into his past. You know, we're hoping that someone has the missing puzzle that we need that can come forward.
We know that he did a attempted kidnapping. Have we talked to that family just to see if he mentioned anything of where they would take her, or any leads of where they would?
Yes, that investigation has been looked at.
Okay.
Moving forward, what kind of law enforcement presence will be dedicated to this case?
Well, you know, obviously, you know, we have someone that's dedicated to this case. You know, Alma's a small department, but some of us multitask, but we do have an investigator that's dedicated to this case. We have a part-time investigator that's dedicated to this case and this case only. We have good allies with the local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies that has offered any assistance that we need.
Is it safe to say this is the most significant breakthrough we've had in years?
In my opinion, yes.
And just for clarification, it's just that you have Morgan Nick associated with the truck and with Lincks, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Lincks had, you know, you don't have any evidence at this point that Lincks actually did something to her. Is that right?
That is correct. We believe strongly that Morgan was in this truck.
Has the LEO or any officials have searched Lincks' property?
Yeah, there have been some searches done in the past, yes.
Anything that links him to that ballpark in the past or that particular evening?
Not to my knowledge, other than some sightings of a similar pickup, if not the truck, in the area.
Okay, one last question, please.
Was there any other evidence found inside that truck that ties Morgan to the truck other than the hair?
I can't answer that right now because I'm honestly not sure what all evidence was collected out of that truck. You know, it was processed by the FBI evidence response team. We were present for that, but there was some evidence that was tested by the FBI, and so some of that is I don't know.
Chief, I see you're joined state police, local prosecutor. FBI, this is everyone who's actively assisting with this, is that correct? Did I miss anybody?
No, as I mentioned, the state police was a big help in funding this testing. So they're here with us today as assisting us and have offered their resources for us.
Would any members like to talk?
Not at this time. I'm going to turn it over to Colleen that wants to say something.
You know, there have been an army of supporters and advocates and heroes who have rallied to uncover the truth about Morgan's disappearance, and you see those people here in this room today. And what I have to say about Billy Jack Lincks is that he stole Morgan from me. He stole her from her dad. And he stole her from Logan and Taryn. But he didn't see that he could never win. Because our love for Morgan, her memory and her voice outlasted his life. And that love continues to shine. Her heart, Morgan's heart, shines on.
Again, we appreciate you guys being here today. Any media questions are going to be routed to the Arkansas State Police Public Information Officer. Again, thank you.
All right, well, we are finishing up that press conference there in Alma where we found out that Billy Jack Lincks, his truck, there was a DNA in there, a piece of hair that matched Colleen Nick's. Now, they do believe that that is linked to Morgan and her disappearance. And like they said, they haven't really had one suspect except him this whole time. And they can't prove exactly that he did anything to her, but they can prove now that they do believe she was in his truck.
They're saying they're certain she was in his truck. And it is pretty amazing that they were able to recover that evidence. I mean, almost 30 years later, from one piece of hair being tested that they found in a truck that had multiple owners since then. It's pretty amazing.
And this was a big process beforehand because once they found the truck and that description, it took years to track down that truck. It was from the 90s. They found it in 2019 with an owner, it sounded like across the country, and they asked him if they could test this. They did that over the last few years, going to a lab in Texas to get that DNA and get those results, which they just got, they said, on the 27th, connecting it to this. And this has been a lot of work over the years. Nearly 30 years, no one has ever given up on finding Morgan Nick. The police chief there from Alma said over 1,000 hours have been worked on this case and over 10,000 leads over this nearly 30 years.
Yeah, and I mean, like he said, this opens up a lot more they can do having one suspect now. They said some of the questions are like, how was she taken? What happened next? And hopefully answering those will lead to eventually finding Morgan, which is the end goal.
Yeah, definitely. Those were a lot of questions that he was saying he hopes people can answer now that they put this information out there. Darren and Joe, they were in that room as that announcement was made, and we actually just heard from her mom, Colleen Nick. And Darren, you've worked with her over the years on this case. You've spoken on the Morgan Nick Foundation, and she said it right there that they are not giving up hope, and Morgan's legacy will forever outlive Billy Jack Lincks even after this information.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part about this is not only naming Billy Jack Lincks the official suspect in this, and now what they can do with the evidence that they have collected, not only from that truck that you mentioned, which was the original red truck, by the way, that became such a focal point of this case in its early stages. That they will use now what evidence they found at his house, other family members, but really they're asking for the public's input on this. They really want to get folks who knew Billy Jack Lincks or the family of Billy Jack Lincks to call and offer up. There may be someone that talked to Billy Jack Lincks about this case, and he may have said something to them that they just have never come forward. You heard the chief talk about that as well, that they hope that there may be a person or persons out there that will do that will be a part of this investigation. You mentioned that the evidence found in the truck, that was it was a new way of testing hair fibers that didn't have the roots in them. Usually that's how you do DNA testing, but there was a new way of testing these hair fibers that were found in this truck, that were vacuumed out of this truck, and they were able to determine that it came from Morgan Nick's family. And that's one of the biggest announcements, or the biggest developments in this case since in the last 29 years. So now the effort is, obviously you heard Chief Pointer say at the end that the evidence that they can now use, that they can now focus on one suspect, they can now use that evidence and any other future input from residents in this area, or nationwide for that matter, they can use that evidence to hopefully find Morgan wherever she is. And to me, that's, after having covered this for 29 years, and the family as well, that would be the ultimate closure of this case. This is a big step toward that. Hopefully the evidence that they found in the truck and elsewhere, and any future evidence, will be used to help find her.
All right, well, thanks so much, Darren, for that. And as you know, he and Joe have been knowing about this. They were talking about their memories, each of them, from when it happened. And it's just an emotional day and emotional moments in the courtroom, having this significant breakthrough in the case, what it means to people.
Definitely, and I think it is important to just highlight Colleen Nick and the rock that she has been for the Alma community and her family during this time. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to meet her, but just meeting her multiple times as she's done events for the Morgan Nick Foundation, she truly has never given up, and I don't think she ever will. And she has helped so many other kids get found and raised awareness for missing kids because of the story with her own daughter, inspiring so many others. Now, 5 News reporter Rachel Williams, she was outside of that meeting all morning. And Rachel, you've seen a lot of people go in and out of that room. And also, just what has the mood been like out there? We've seen somber, we've seen hopeful. What has kind of been the overall thing that you've seen so far?
Yeah, Tiffany, so far just what I'm seeing is that people were just kind of on edge and anticipating what exactly those details were that Chief Pointer was saying. I mean, as you guys just heard in the press conference, we learned in 2019 police resumed investigating this case from the very beginning, and over the span of 5 years, they examined the suspect's red pickup truck, and in that truck, physical evidence was shown that Morgan Nick was in the car through DNA samples of her hair. And there are still questions that police still want to know. They want to know how she was taken from the ballpark and if Lincks had help. But as police said, this investigation is still ongoing and active, as Morgan Nick is still missing 29 years later, and they're still hopeful that they will be able to find her now that they have official evidence in this case. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks for that update, Rachel. Now, one thing, Morgan, we were just talking about it, and growing up in Arkansas, this is a case that has been well known for years, and this happened before I was ever even born, but it is something that I've heard about my entire life. Where is Morgan Nick? How can we find her? And so this is definitely something that the community has continuously come together and hoped for these answers. And so I really do think that this will kind of give hope to those people who've been following the case and hopefully get the answers that people have been looking for all these years.
Yeah, definitely one of the most well-known cases like this in Arkansas. And like he said, the police said that this is probably the most significant breakthrough in this case. So definitely a big day for this case.
Yeah, and there were some things that he said he hopes will come of this. Those questions that he was saying he hopes people ask. I know some of those were just like,
how was she taken?
Yeah, how was she taken? What happened after she was taken? Where is she now? And another question was, did he have help? Now, you covered this morning a little bit about him and his past and what we had learned in that latest docuseries, Still Missing Morgan. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and of course this morning, this was before we knew what the announcement was going to be. But what we talked about was the latest information we had up to that point was in that documentary, and it was about Lincks, and it was about how they had seen this red truck at the ballpark, linked that to him, and recovered some evidence from the truck, like the hair. There was also a small amount of blood, of cotton fiber in the truck. And they were not able to link that with DNA, but it was just kind of a possibility. But now, all of these years later, as we've learned today, they had this new technology. They were able to actually determine that the DNA from that hair strand was from the Nick's family.
And I feel like we've been calling Billy Jack Lincks, just from information people have gotten over the years. We've been saying that he was a lead suspect in this case the whole time. But it was today that the Alma police chief said, now at this time, we are calling him one of those suspects. And so I think that that is important to note, because now they do feel like they have a really good grasp on this and how to find her from here on and just figure out what's next.
Yeah, opens a lot of doors for this investigation.
Definitely. Well, if you want to keep up with the latest coverage on this, you can do that on our website, 5newsonline.com. You can also go to our 5+ app and on our 5 News app. We will have those latest updates throughout the day. We'll have team coverage, and there will be a lot more information. If you missed some of this broadcast right here, we'll have more on that. And we'll also be live at noon with more and some interviews and things like that from people who've been outside of that room today and talking to people after this really big announcement.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here at noon.